Welcome to this edition of The Hill with April Ryan. There's a lot to talk about. Let's get right to it. Primary season is well underway, and it looks like neither President Biden nor Donald Trump will face much opposition on their way to their party's nomination. As we look ahead to the November general election, many experts believe the outcome will come down to a few battleground states like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. But Colmon Elridge, the head of the Democratic Party in Kentucky, believes there's a chance that his state may be in play for the Democrats as well. He says the black vote there could offer a surprise in the number of people going to the polls. People in areas like Lexington, Louisville, and Northern Kentucky are expected to show up in large numbers, driven by issues like jobs, education, and infrastructure.
What I will say in Kentucky is that we in the Black community had Daniel Cameron to run against last year. And what that has done is it has shown the extreme of the Republican Party in a way that we've been able to get folks to take another look, to say, like, you're not perfect, but what almost happened can't happen again, but it could. So we have to capitalize on that. We did last year. We saw increased voter turnout among African Americans to support Governor Beshear. So again, we've laid the foundation for that. It's just going to be a matter of connecting the dots and getting folks, if not excited, at least to the polls.
In the 2020 presidential election, Kentucky voted overwhelmingly for former President Donald Trump at 61.2% to Biden's 36.2%. Kentucky saw a record turnout of 64% of registered voters showing up to the polls. Black men are at the center of the political universe this year for both Democrats and Republicans. Tara Setmeyer of the Lincoln Project says Donald Trump may have an advantage over what could be a perception by Black men.
I think the Democrats have a Black male problem in this, and they need to look at why. And there is an opening for Donald Trump and Republicans to gain some support here because they are speaking to a certain aspect of that constituency that resonates, mainly on the area of economics. They seem to believe that they're economically better off with Donald Trump. This is not unique to just that constituency. This is something that's also resonating, despite what the numbers actually say. But perception is reality in politics, and Democrats have a problem here and cannot take this for granted.
Setmeyer says Trump saw a 20% bump in the Black vote in 2020 in places like the suburbs of Philadelphia. One of the issues the Biden campaign is banking on is support for abortion rights and women's health care. Recent polls show most Americans, regardless of party, support women's health care and their right to choose their care. Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra says he hopes that will eventually lead to a change across the country.
In 5 years, April, I think we're going to go a long way of breaking this crazy Dobbs decision that created this dichotomy of rights for women when it comes to reproductive care, because I think people are going to issue their own decision. Maybe a court of law said women don't have rights, but I think the court of public opinion is going to break that decision and get us back to sanity so that everyone in America has access to the health care they need.
Dr. Sharon Malone is the Chief Medical Officer of Alloy Women's Health and the author of the soon-to-be-released book, Grown Woman Talk. She says when women's options are limited, the results can be tragic and severe.
Women lose their lives. That's what happens. Women lose their lives. They lose the livelihood. It makes it increases childhood poverty as well as the poverty of women. If women are not able to control when and where to start their families, I mean, so that issue is a huge one. And to be quite honest with you, I don't understand how a private matter between a woman and her physician somehow becomes a matter of government regulation. We don't do that for any other thing. You know, name any condition, anything that men have that the federal government steps in and says what they can and cannot have. It doesn't exist.
Malone says women's health care is more than just one subject. It goes beyond the issue of abortion. Actor, activist, and now politician Hill Harper gets a huge endorsement for his U.S. Senate run in Michigan. The UAW is throwing its support behind Harper in efforts to fill the seat being vacated by Senator Debbie Stabenow.
The UAW this past year, as many folks know, was on strike. And getting out there on the strike lines with so many folks, particularly folks in Region 1A and Region 1, has been, it's so important to me because we have to show up for each other. And that's where the collective strength is. And my union, SAG-AFTRA, was on strike as well. You got to remember, the writers went on strike and SAG-AFTRA went on strike. And so we were all on strike together. And so this past year, to see the solidarity of labor coming together, the only way we fight back against corporate greed and against all the practices that are trying to stop unions is collectively working together.
Harper, who is hanging up his actor's hat, says moving to politics is a natural transition from acting. As an actor, he had to walk in another person's shoes and empathize with their situation. That's it for another edition of The Hill with April Ryan. Tune in next time right here for more news and information for us and about us. Until next time, peace.